The 15th through the 17th centuries are known as the Age of Exploration. Europeans began exploring the world by sea in search of new trade routes to connect new markets with an abundance of valuable goods and resources. Because the Turkish Muslims conquered and blocked the previous trade routes in Constantinople, competition was created among the European countries to discover a sea route to India. Many explorers such as Christopher Columbus and Amerigo Vespucci attempted to travel to India, but instead discovered different lands. The first European to successfully find a route to India was a Portuguese explorer named Vasco da Gama. On May 20, 1498, Vasco da Gama landed in Cuppard Beach of Calicut. His success paved way for direct Indo-European trade. From 1526 to 1707, most of India was ruled by the Mughal Empire. The Mughals welcomed foreign trade. India exported goods such as spices, indigo, opium, sugar, and woolen, silk, and cotton cloth, and in return gained gold and silver. During the empire's rule, cities like Agra, Lahore, Ahmedabad, Banaras, and Surat were extremely wealthy and prosperous, and many homes included ostentatious decorations. At this time, India had the second largest economy in the world. Education was also highly valued during the Mughal Empire. Many Mughal emperors were great patrons of learning and gave full encouragement to spread education in their domain. Hindu education consisted of primary schools attached to temples. These schools were maintained by grants and endowments. No printed books were provided, but students were taught religious scriptures. Professor S.M. Jafar stated that education was regarded as a preparation for life and for life after death, and hence it was that religion was at the root of all study. Scriptures in Sanskrit and Arabic were translated into Persian. However, regional languages were still present. Mughals also emphasized personal fitness and health and provided public hospitals. However, they were not as advanced as hospitals provided later by the British. Despite the positive ideas of trade, education, and health during the empire, the social customs during this time period were not as positive. Early child marriages, polygamy, and divorce were common practices among the wealthy, and the common people that lived in India lived in poverty, diseased, and were oppressed by the powerful. In 1617, the English East India Company gained permission from Jahangir, a Mughal emperor, to settle its trade with India. The East India Company gradually took control of India by signing treaties that established military and trading alliances with many independent states. They established rule over Bengal at first and expanded all over India. The local princes were left in charge, which was effective in maintaining British rule because these princes benefited from being loyal. During the company's rule, there was expansion, exploitation of Indian goods, economic drain, and humiliation of Indians. Economic exploitation badly affected all classes, and the entire Indian society was in poverty. India became deindustrialized, impoverished, and debt-ridden. Gold, silver, jewels, and silk were shipped to Britain as tax. The British during the rule of the East India Company viewed Indians as racially inferior and culturally backwards. Missionaries from Britain tampered with Hindu religions and customs with the objective of Christianizing India. In 1829, Sati, the Hindu practice of a widow jumping into a fire after the death of her husband, was banned. Along with banning Sati, in 1856, widow remarriage was allowed. These changes improved the status of Indian women, however they changed Indian customs and practices. The East India Company gave the Indian Army cartridges greased with the fat of cows and pigs. The Indian Army was made up of Hindus and Muslims who, according to their religion, are not permitted to eat beef or pork. However, to open these cartridges, it required them to put them in their mouth. Indians concluded that their religion was in danger. These factors caused the Sepoy Mutiny, the largest rebellion against the British, which lasted from 1857 to 1858. The East India Company was not accepted by most Indians and they preferred Mughal rule. The Sepoy Mutiny is also known as India's first war for independence. Fighting lasted 18 months, with the British eventually winning. After the Sepoy Mutiny ends, the British Raj, also known as the British government, rules in place of the English East India Company. 20,000 troops and British officials rule over 300 million Indians, with the cooperation from princes, local leaders, Indian troops, and officers. Under the British Raj, higher-class Indians were educated in English schools and then served in the British Army or performed civil service. During the British Raj, many positive and negative changes and exchanges were made that make India the way it is today. The British introduced ideas of liberty and equality. They sanctioned intercaste and intercommunal marriages. Also, child marriage was prevented and slavery was declared illegal. Another benefit of the British Raj is the introduction to Western education and the English language. This aided Indians in developing and accepting modern, rational, democratic, liberal, and patriotic boldness. The Raj established missionaries and churches in cities such as Chennai, Pune, and Kolkata. Another major benefit that comes from the British Raj is the establishment of modern ways of transportation, like railroads and waterways, postal and telegraphs for communication. Tea, coffee, and ideas of cinema and the sport of cricket were also part of the exchange between Britain and India. Because of improved water supply and treatment against diseases, the life expectancy in India increased. Although there were many positive cultural exchanges during the British Raj, there were also numerous negative impacts that affected India. India was a source of wealth for the British and was known as the jewel in the crown. Roughly $1 trillion worth of gold, diamond, and raw materials were looted from India. A 105-carat diamond called the Kohinoor diamond that was kept by various Mughal emperors was looted and gifted to Queen Victoria when she was declared Empress of India in 1877. The diamond is currently part of the Royal British Crown Jewels. From 1857 to 1947, India's economy grew at 0%. Before the British, India's economy was the second largest in the world. However, during the Industrial Revolution, India did not grow, while Britain and US did. The British Raj also drained India's native populace by growing cash crops like cotton instead of food, causing 25 major famines. Farmers suffered from land revenue. Local manufactured goods were sold at cheap prices in Britain, while Indians had to buy finished products at expensive prices. At the beginning of the British Raj, there was relative openness towards Indians, but towards the end of their rule, attitudes changed and there was racism. Eventually, Indians sought independence from the British. The fight for freedom was led by the Indian National Congress, a class of Indians produced by the British education system. These individuals read English literature about concepts of fair play and justice. Also, ideas of freedom of press introduced by the British encouraged Indians to openly criticize the British Raj in newspapers. The railroads, communications, and transportations that improved during British rule also helped Indians gain their independence in 1947. Modern India is heavily influenced by the British Raj and the exchanges that occurred throughout the British rule. When the British arrived, India had more than 17% of the world's GDP. However, when they left, the GDP decreased to less than 1%. Christianity is still present in various parts of India today. Along with religion, ideas of westernized education and the English language is also present.
Superficially many, beginning from race, language, behavior pattern, good morning, goodbye. You see everything superficially, but intrinsically or more seriously, certain doesn't impact the logical way of looking at things, pragmatic way of looking at things, and the commercial way of looking at things. All these gifts certainly came from a great extent.
Introduction to English benefited many Indians and is a critical advantage for Indian tourism, call centers, and software developers. Although education in India is now very westernized, traditional Indian roots such as the language of Sanskrit are still present. Trade still occurs between India and Britain. Indian products are sold in wider British markets. 21st century Indian legal system, government structure, national capital, and the railway network, which is the world's largest employer, have been substantially influenced by the British Raj. Modern India is the way it is today because of the introductions and exchanges of ideas during the British rule.